Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
Have you guys seen my videos exposing both New York and Chicago for the darkness that they hide? Well, if you haven't, go check them out because this video will make more sense. But Washington, I haven't forgotten about you, because Washington, they might be worse than the other two. Because at least Chicago and New York, they try to hide it a little bit. These guys, they put who their buildings are worshiping right in plain sight. Let's start with this giant obelisk, also known as the Washington Monument, which just happens to stand 555 feet tall and 55.5 feet wide. And those feet, converted to inches, turn out to be 666 and 6666. The mark of the beast, the mark of the Antichrist, also referred to as the devil's number. And that's not even to mention that the word obelisk literally means the shaft of Baal. Baal, who is a pagan god of worship and also in Christian demonology known as one of the 7 princes of hell. And then you turn and look at something that would be as innocuous as the street alignment, and you might not see something now, but with a little highlighting, you quickly see that the streets, they're aligned just like a pentagram, with the White House at its center point. A pentagram that is widely used in satanic temples and as a sign of Satan, as well as this Baphomet statue doing the as above, so below symbol. This Baphomet statue that there was a ton of controversy over as it was used in satanic temples. And hey, it kind of looks familiar. Where have I seen that before? Oh, that's right. In Washington, as a statue of George Washington doing that as above, so below symbol. And we haven't even talked about the most obvious one of all, the most obvious one that's in everybody's face. That's right. The Pentagon, in the shape of a pentagram that goes right past everyone's view. Because whether you realize it or not, this place, it's not at all what you think. And the people in charge, they're not at all who you think. And they worship someone that you don't want to be worshiping. And that's what they want. They want you worshiping everything but the Most High. They want you worshiping athletes and movie stars and presidents. Maybe that's God's test. Maybe that's God's test to see if you will still choose the good and the light and God. And as always, I'm not really serious about any of this. I'm just kind of joking, these are just fun pictures to look at. All entertainment purposes, pure satire.
We all know that they have to put this stuff right out in the open in front of our eyes, but it's starting to look more and more like this nation was not founded on Christian principles, but on satanic principles, because you don't see any of the Christian representation anywhere. It's all satanic representation.
Just want to show y'all something real quick. As a teenager, I have read all of these books, and all of these books was recommended by Bohemian himself. These are all ancient books from the maybe 1700s. Yeah, I know we talking about that Kundalini energy right now. Well, they knew about it almost 200 years ago. See that serpent and the DNA? They knew what was going on. Another one recommended by Bobby Emmett, the novel of the Black Seal. It's another good one. It's the Book of the Law. And y'all see who it's by? Aleister Crowley. And y'all see the Egyptian stuff all around the book. They was paying homage to the ancient Egyptians. And who is that? The hidden gods over in America. Next, you will have the Book of Lies. This one is all about King Solomon. Solomon means the soul of man. A lot of people thought Aleister Crowley was crazy, but this guy was far from it. He knew what he was talking about, and he can break down some of this stuff way better than Egyptians could. He was exposing the truths and what was really going on. They would create spookism and all these crazy stories around the person to scare you away from them. Now this is the big one. It's full of knowledge. This book is called The Golden Dawn, and they would be speaking about us coming into the golden age almost 200 years ago. I can't really show too much, but they knew about that serpent energy. They knew about the Christ oil. It was all about raising your vibration. This is the whole secret to life. Now you have that Kundalini flame at your root chakra, and you must go through all these gates and energy points until you reach the pineal gland. Jesus dying at the age of 32 is just symbolic for the ascension process. He ascended to a higher realm. Y'all, these books were so good, When I read them as a teenager, I had to buy them over again. And all of these books was recommended by Bobby Hemmett himself. Your enemy don't care if you have money, weapons, jewelry. They don't care about that. What they fear is you tapping into yourself. They don't want you to come online and activate. But stay tuned. I'm gonna teach you guys how to open up your third eye. Peace and ashe, family.
So I thought this was interesting because, as many of you probably know from watching this channel, I'm a big fan of old books, especially old books that have writings in them that are supposedly revealing details about secret societies and secret organizations and stuff like that. But as far as the Aleister Crowley stuff, I can't sit here and say that I could recommend anyone read those books in particular. They may hold a lot of valuable information, but that guy absolutely was a lunatic. There's a podcast. I also don't suggest listening to this podcast. It's very, very vulgar and not for everybody. But last podcast on the left, they did a breakdown on Aleister Crowley's life. It was like a 3-part series, if I'm remembering correctly. The dude is a lunatic. The stories about him, about all of this crazy stuff that he would get involved in and stuff, it's all true. And so I just can't suggest anyone read a book by someone like that.
Unfortunately, we are at a point in time where if you use a public restroom, you need to check for hidden cameras. These cameras are getting smaller, cheaper, and more undetectable by the average person. There was a recent incident of this at a San Jose Starbucks. On January 31st, a plumber was working on the sink of that bathroom when he noticed something odd. It turned out to be a tiny hidden camera pointed directly at the toilet. Authorities said the videos are extremely graphic and they've counted 91 victims. Their ages range from 4 to 85 years old. And all of this was recorded on one day. Fortunately, they tracked down the man behind it a couple weeks later, 35-year-old Luis Juarez Jr., who has children, by the way. When they searched his home, they also found 20 firearms, high-capacity magazines, and more tiny cameras. This guy wasn't a Starbucks worker. He just walked in and easily placed a hidden camera in the bathroom. And with most hidden cameras nowadays, all you need is a Wi-Fi connection to access and download these videos, like the free Starbucks Wi-Fi. If a plumber didn't catch this the very next day after he placed it, this guy could have been recording hundreds of people every day for who knows how long.
Well, it's officially not safe to use a public restroom anymore. Not that anyone wants to use them because they're always nasty, but caution, use caution. We're all going to have to start getting our phones out and scanning the bathrooms when we go into a public restroom to make sure no one's filming us poop. Hey, if you're enjoying this video and you like this kind of content, I make a new one just like it every single day. It'd be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me.
Handful of people know how useful this stuff is. These are liquid metals. You take a block of iron and put it on a cheese grater and put in some oil, you get that. It was made by NASA to move fuel around in rockets when gravity is a problem, and then they accidentally made venom. For real though, this stuff is really cool. Important thing to note, it reacts to magnetic fields in this way because it's very fine. We can see details of the magnetic field, which makes it really cool for cymatics too. If you put a magnetized rod in the middle of the cymatics dish, then the ferrofluid will react with the magnetic field the speaker's using to move the speaker. But it's also how UFOs work. The concept is called magnetohydrodynamics. The government's been tinkering around with this since the 50s. If you want the specifics, that video on YouTube is excellent. But basically, when you have a rotating liquid metal, so a spinning liquid metal around usually a solid core, creates electrical discharge. This is how the Earth creates its magnetic field as well. It's kind of similar to how tokamaks do fusion, except they're using a plasma instead of a liquid metal. Those siphon the fusion energy for power. So the fusion reactor uses magnetic fields to generate electricity. This uses electricity to generate an opposing magnetic field to the Earth's magnetic field. This guy is doing it with a beaker stir that you would have in chemistry. I do not have the original video for this. This was sent to me. I don't know the original poster if you're wondering, but you can see here he puts a hoop over it to demonstrate that there is no string above it. There's actually several patents out with designs that utilize this concept. You can look those up too. My new book will also have an entire section that covers this concept. It's taking a little longer than expected, but as you can see, it's a lot higher quality than the previous one, and I'm putting everything I have into this one. Give me another week or two on it. It's almost done. But if you haven't read the first book in the series, there's a link in my bio where you can go get that in the digital or physical formats. Still haven't got a haircut, so someone buy this.
So that's an interesting breakdown of how to use the electromagnetic field to create levitation. This is probably actually a good direction to look in as to how these man-made craft are being propelled. Because if you listen to Bob Lazar talk about the crafts that they supposedly captured and were backwards engineering, they were being run off of this special element that didn't even exist yet on the periodic table. So it's not like they could just run out and grab a bunch more of that element because it had not really been discovered yet. So it makes sense, since they've been experimenting with electromagnetic field and stuff like that since back in the 40s and 50s, it would make sense that they figured out a way to use that to create these crafts that have these seemingly outside of the realm of possibility propulsion systems.
Have you heard that? So apparently Buzz Aldrin saw the devil himself in Antarctica.
What?
So this is the theory. In 2016, a satellite captured an image of what scientists believe to be a massive pyramid in Antarctica. This would be the largest pyramid ever found on Earth. Bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, which is about 230 meters wide. And this pyramid in Antarctica would be 2,000 meters wide. So in 2016, Buzz Aldrin, alongside his team, embarked on an expedition to Antarctica with the aim of exploring and confirming the existence of this immense pyramid. So this is where it gets wild. During the expedition, Buzz Aldrin had a heart attack. He was hospitalized for days, but when he fully recovered and left the hospital, he tweeted something strange but quickly deleted it. It said, "We are all in danger. It is evil itself."
What?
And someone close to Buzz said they spoke with him, and he said one thing: "We thought out things we shouldn't implement." Aldrin also shared several chilling photos. To see them, follow us, click on share, then more, then photos.
We thought out things we shouldn't implement. This sounds to me like he's warning us of what human beings are doing in Antarctica, not of something that they discovered. It doesn't sound like some nefarious discovery in the sense of, oh, we found this alien technology that's very dangerous, or we found aliens and they're not nice people. I don't think it's something like that. I think that he might have gone up there and had one of these secret weapons that they're using to create earthquakes and stuff like that exposed to him, and maybe he had that stuff explained to him, and he's just a good person at heart and realizes the evil nature of something like that and what it's capable of, and just how wrong it is to actually even create something like that.
A man who calls himself the pro-life Spider-Man has been arrested after he scaled the exterior of the Las Vegas Sphere. 24-year-old Maison Deschamps has been charged with destruction of property after he was seen climbing the sphere on video, causing $100,000 worth of damage. He posted an Instagram video with a GoPro camera strapped to his head from the top of the sphere and explained that he scaled the structure to raise funds to help a homeless pregnant woman cancel her abortion appointment. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts on this, it's absurd to me how often we see people filming themselves do something illegal. This dude caused $100,000 worth of damage to this structure and filmed himself doing it, and he thinks he's going to get away with it. It's stupidity at its finest.
Every time I go to America, I dread that experience. In 1 week, I put on a pound. If I spend 2 weeks in the United States, even if I'm eating the exact same foods I'm eating here in Europe, I put on a pound a week. When I come back to Europe, I immediately start shedding weight. Here in Europe, I drink very little. I eat a ton of bread. I love carbs. I love the pasta here. I do not put on weight. As soon as I set foot in any state in the United States, I start getting bloated.
Well, you are surrounded by pesticides and herbicides at much higher levels. The water quality in the US is lower. What's going on there is you're not actually putting on a pound of fat, you're putting on a pound of inflammation. It's hard to put a pound of fat on in 1 week. Your cells, instead of turning that air and food into electricity and heat, they were turning it into inflammation. And then as soon as you came back here and you cleared the toxins, then you felt better. One of the reasons that I can live in the US and I can be as lean and fit as I am is that I upregulated all of my detox pathways so that I can handle the toxic environment that the government in the US created for us.
You know, the more I learn about our food supply and our water supply, it's starting to seem like we're the only first world country with a third world food supply. All of our food is just garbage, and you can't even go to the grocery store and buy healthy, like non-GMO vegetables and stuff anymore without worrying about them putting vaccines in it now. But it's all by design. It's what they don't want us being healthy. They want us flooding into them hospitals so they can keep that money rolling in.
Nope, this is not a statue, but a biblical world-ending warning that has now been found in Russia, and what it means for us is something of a nightmare. People were terrified after what appeared to be an evil fallen angel turned into stone found in Russia, and it was just as the Book of Enoch depicted would happen to angels, and this would start to appear as a warning that our time has come. Those who went to see the angel noticed how detailed the angel is, to the point where you could even see pores and texture on the face and no chip marks, and many saying it looks like a person was just frozen. Given this was dug up from underground and allegedly there for thousands of years, this would not be possible otherwise. And those standing next to the angel even left haunting words, saying they could feel that it was evil and there was energy radiating off of it, with eerie videos showing the angel kneeling down, but still so large that men standing next to it couldn't even match the height of it, lining up with how the Bible might have depicted them. Some say this was made up by the miners, but others believe it.
I don't believe that they uncovered this angel that turned into stone. Could it have been a statue that was created in order to represent one of the fallen angels? Absolutely. If that's the case, the thing that I find to be the most fascinating part about it is just the sheer height of it. Because if you were going to just make a statue of an angel, wouldn't you make it to be the same size as a regular man? Make it lifelike? You would want to make it similar to the size of what most people are to make it have that lifelike appearance. So the fact that it looks like if the thing stood up, it would be 15 or 20 foot tall is pretty cool.
What you are seeing now is the scene of pregnant Ukrainian female soldiers surrendering to the Russian army. Ukrainian lawmakers claim that pregnancy is not a reason to delay military service. It is reported that Ukraine has urgently allocated 50,000 sets of female soldier uniforms to support those who are about to go to the front lines. Although women usually play auxiliary roles in war, Ukraine's predicament has reached the point where they have no choice but to send female soldiers to the front lines. However, their combat effectiveness is questionable, as most of them have never experienced combat and may show cowardice or even become captives in real battles. What's even more tragic is that the Ukrainian authorities cannot provide proper personal equipment for female soldiers, possibly due to insufficient resources in the country. However, this dilemma makes the survival environment for female soldiers even more precarious. With a large number of male casualties and young women being sent to the front lines, Ukraine may face a sharp decline in population and even a crisis of ethnic survival in the future. Currently, Ukraine has introduced a new regulation that allows pregnant female soldiers to delay their military service in order to avoid being sent to the front lines. Many women are competing to get pregnant to avoid deployment. The happiness of men in the rear of Ukraine has come too suddenly. From an objective perspective, when most available men in a country are conscripted and a large number of young women are sent to the front lines, Ukraine cannot afford to delay peace talks any longer.
I feel so horribly bad for the people in Ukraine. Those of them that are left, it seems like they've gone through their entire population and just wiped them out all over this war that doesn't even need to be going on. It's extremely sad. It's extremely frustrating to see something so horribly mismanaged and it's costing this many people their lives. But what are you going to do about it? There ain't really anything that we can do over here. We keep sending them money, but that's not helping them create new people. They're just wiping out everybody.
How did you manage to sneak in?
I basically came to the main gate and crawled down through the swamp and then went up and got into the main parking area where they have these big open backed trucks that come in and take the members in. And I basically just climbed on to the truck with some other members, had a conversation with them, and then they stopped us at an internal checkpoint, and some security people climbed on asking us what group we were with, and I knew enough about some of the club's names inside to tell them I was part of the Hillbillies, which is the Texas delegation, the Bushes and their friends.
And your accent worked.
And I gotta say, you kind of looked the part.
Did you ever think you were going to get found out, Alex, while you were in there?
Oh, the whole time. And I basically just sat behind a building on the grass for the next 2.5 hours or so, and then as it got dark, I then went out to witness the cremation of care ritual.
I'm wondering why you wanted to get in there in the first place.
Well, I had begun to research Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones at Yale. Bohemian Grove is where they all get together.
We've all seen the famous Alex Jones Bohemian Grove footage. I thought this was pretty interesting to hear an actual first-hand depiction right out of his mouth on how he actually got there and infiltrated the facility.
So you're looking at the aftermath of the Francis Scott Key Bridge after a ship ran into one of its support pillars, collapsing the entire thing. And it's 1.6 miles long, over 20 people are missing, and mass casualties have already been reported. But there's a more interesting video of the crash before it happened. So the ship is right here, and you're going to notice something interesting. The lights go out. The ship's still moving. Now the ship right now is on the other side of the bridge coming towards us. And you see the lights are off, but then they're going to come back on. But it's weird because if you watch the ship's movement, it's as if it's turning straight towards that pillar, as if it's aiming for it. The lights go off again, but it's still moving and steering. doesn't really seem to make sense. Lights come back on right before it's about to make impact. So the question draws, why did the ship lose power? And despite losing power, why did the ship start steering directly towards that pillar? So the question then has to be asked, was this actually accidental? Tell me in the comments.
That did look kind of intentional. It's a little suspicious looking. The one thing that frustrated me the most out of the whole video is that he cuts away right before they make impact. I would have liked to have actually seen it. It looked like there was a lot of traffic still on that bridge whenever it was fixing to make impact, so it's probably for the best that we didn't get to witness that. Might have saw a lot of people going off in the water. That's probably why they cut it away when they did.
Biden health officials suppressed a government study that showed that there is no safe level of fluoride in water supply and that it can lower IQ in children and harm pregnant women. The only reason we know about this is thanks to a lawsuit that forced the Biden administration to turn over the documents. But first, just look at the places that do have fluoride in the water. This map is courtesy of the British Fluoridation Society. Fluoride in the water is a funny thing, right? The government says we need it to protect our teeth, and our teeth need protection because the modern diet is so degrading on teeth enamel and full of sugar and processed foods that grind down our teeth. It's a vicious cycle, right? So the government, in response to this, has decided to fix our food chain. Just kidding, they're not. They're not going to do anything of the
instead
sort.
of all the processed food, we'll get rid of that. No, instead, we're going to mask it with chemicals in the water.
Yes. That's exactly right.
That's how we roll.
And, you know, there was never any real research on the effects of this. And now that there is some, the government is trying to hide that research about the possible negative effect of fluoride. A group called the Fluoride Action Network has sued the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA. The EPA is being defended by the Justice Department. So you and your tax dollars are defending this. You're defending their right to maybe hurt you and your kids. That's how it works.
By putting fluoride in the water.
Because we pay our taxes and the Justice Department is taxpayer funded. So we are then all in on protecting the EPA. We have to be. But in this suit, they sought for the release of a report called the National Toxicology Program. And here is the report in question. Why do we have it? Because a judge ruled that we should. Here is the email in question, where someone is asking, like, hey, we got a heads up from the NIH about this report coming out soon and fluoride and the, you know, effects on IQ. Assume you're aware. Do we need to chat? That is, you know, I think that's masking like, yikes, this is going to suck. We need to talk about it. To which this person responds, thanks so much. Assistant Health Secretary Levine has put it on hold until further notice. Like, we should be freaking out, but for now, it's been buried.
Kindergarten or first grade, they used to give us in the school, and if anyone remembers this, I was in New Jersey at the time, a little plastic cup every morning, and they'd put like one little pink fluoride tablet in the cup, and you had to like chew it, and you had to chew it. It was like chalky.
55 different studies, and they sort of did a compendium of them, and they found that here is the results. Let's just read it. In adults, only 2 high-quality cross-sectional studies examining cognitive effects were available. The literature in children was more extensive and was separated into 2 studies assessing IQ and studies assessing other cognitive or neurodevelopmental outcomes. 8 of 9 high-quality studies examining other cognitive or neurodevelopmental outcomes reported association with fluoride exposure. 72 studies assessed the association between fluoride exposure and IQ in children. 19 of those studies were considered to be high quality. Of these, 18 reported an association between higher fluoride exposure and lower IQ in children. The 18 studies, which include 3 prospective cohort studies and 15 cross-sectional studies, were conducted in 5 different countries. 46 of the 53 low-quality studies in children also found evidence of an association between higher fluoride exposure and lower IQ in children.
You know, there's one thing that the government, United States government, is responsible for. That is the protection and security of its people, right? And how many times are we seeing evidence that they're doing the exact opposite? The Environmental Protection Agency is supposed to protect us from environmental toxins. They're literally they have studies, 46 out of 53 studies that they have now shown that it raises incredible problems for young children and adults.
Yeah.
And you think for a second that they haven't known this? They probably knew this when they started putting fluoride in the water. It was just done as an attempt to dumb us down as a population so that they could have more control over us. But on a brighter note, it looks like things are actually moving in the right direction now, and something may actually be done to remove all this fluoride from the water. Because of this lawsuit and stuff that's going on right now, it looks like things may actually be looking up. But guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you guys enjoyed these clips we watched together today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video like I always am. I hope you come back to join me. I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your Tuesday, and I will see you all tomorrow.